Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wavy Digital Desk. It's been flying by the holiday season. We're less than 2 days away from that busy 10-day holiday travel period. Are you traveling? How are you getting there? I just put a poll in. If you're on Facebook, if you're on wavy.com, tweet us back. You can hashtag Wavy and tag Wavy and just tell us, how are you traveling this holiday season? Thank you so much for joining us on wavy.com and Facebook. If you're tuning in after midday, thank you for going from our studio to our digital studio. We're going to have a bit of a show of jam-packed information with people from the Wavy team to sort of get you through this holiday season in case of travel, but also staying healthy. We know that flu cases, RSV, COVID, those are sort of rising across the country, and we'll get back to that a little bit later. If you're on Facebook again, how are you traveling? Car, plane, train? Are you staying local? If you are staying local, that is also incredibly important in this stream. We're going to be talking about traffic and have more information there. Right now, I want to ask, are you traveling this week? Are you trying to get ahead of it? Well, maybe this will help you make some of those decisions and sort of inform you on if you maybe need to even get out earlier than you thought. To start, the AAA is saying that over this 10-day holiday period, they're going to see or predicting to see over 115 million travelers. Now that is the second highest since 2000. Can you believe that? So that is, talking about planes, cars, trains, and other. Maybe you're taking a bus, and maybe you are driving just without in that 50-mile range from sort of where you're located. To start, I want to sort of talk about those that are traveling, whether you're driving to a holiday party, whether you're driving just for the day to see relatives or friends or family, you're staying local even. Maybe you're having a staycation, maybe you're going to work. Just knowing sort of what the busiest times are of the day to travel and what those busy days are. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to bring in Madison Pierman, who is going to talk to us about some of those tips. And, if you do have questions and you happen to be on Facebook or Twitter, we'll be checking that. So please put them in, I'll try to answer them. And we're just going to hear a little bit from Madison about what you can expect traveling right now to keep you informed.
Madison Pierman here in the 10 Times Saver Traffic Center for the Digital Desk. Right now, we are taking a look at some quick facts. If you are hitting the road this weekend ahead of the holiday season, I'll tell you what, Saturday is going to be the busiest day. So if you are leaving that day, leave before 10. That's going to give you some time to beat that holiday rush. AAA says it's going to be there between 11 in the morning to 7 at night. So avoid the headache, leave a little early, maybe even leave on Friday. That's shaping up to be a better driving day as well. Or else you're going to be on the road with about 3 million other Virginians. Closer to about the 10-day holiday stretch that we're going to be seeing. So basically from Christmas all the way through to New Year's Eve is when we're going to see about 3 million drivers on the road in total in Virginia. However, though, across the country, that number is closer to 103 million people rather, traveling. So if that's where you're headed, just really out the door, be sure to take it slow this morning and plan your drive ahead. You can also use the Wavy Gas Tracker to get the cheapest gas near you. That's over on wavy.com. For now, that's the latest here in the 10 Times Saver Traffic Center. For the Digital Desk, Madison Pierman, 10 on your side.
Well, does that impact anyone's plans? I think even for me, I'm thinking about, when do I need to be on the road, whether you're going to work, whether you're traveling, that day on Saturday, December 23rd is going to be busy. It's going to be busy. She said, get on the road before 10 a.m. That means maybe do that early morning travel, maybe do that late night travel if you're staying safe on Friday night, and just be mindful. As you're traveling throughout Virginia, just take a look at that number, about 3 million of all those drivers that are traveling around the state. You also want to pay attention to, just what is happening. And that is something that you can do on the Waze app. Just stay alert, maybe double check before you travel to that holiday party and just see how long is it actually going to take me to get there. That is really important. How long is it going to take me to get there, right? Because, you might get stuck in some of that travel, whether people are going to parties or events or so forth. The other thing that the AAA is highlighting is gas prices are down. The gas prices are down. So if you're making those trips and you're traveling by car, you actually are hitting it at a good spot with those low gas prices. So fill up your tank, feel at least that hopefully will take the edge off of some of those holiday expenses if you are making a journey by travel. Now, I want to get to something else that is really important in terms of traveling around the state. Obviously weather, and we're going to get to weather later with Ricky Matthews, who's going to give us a forecast whether you're staying local or whether you're traveling out of town. But also that means weather preparedness. Are you weather prepared? Now I know that we're probably not going to get snow, at least in Hampton Roads. You might. Let's stay tuned for Ricky if that's a big poll. Are you expecting or wanting snow? Do you always pray for a white Christmas? Put that in the chat, put that on Twitter. The thing that I want to make sure that people are aware of, though, is how do you prepare for these winter temperatures? It's been cold. It's cold to here this morning. I know that some people are getting frost on their windshield. Well, we spoke with Norfolk's emergency preparedness and response team about what you should be doing. Do you know what to do? Do you know what they're doing in case of, marking or, clearing off those roads? What goes into it and all of that? So we are going to check in with them and just see a little bit more about what you can expect from them, maybe some tips on how to stay prepared and stay patient, as things are clearing up off the roads. And I'm sure this applies to a lot of places out there. So just be mindful of the crews, working during this time and, just staying up to date with the latest city information.
Not only to be safe, but to be patient. There's well over 300 miles of primary roads that our crews need to plow. And if you think about, they have to at least 3 swipes per primary road. That's over 1,000 miles. And that's from here to Little Rock, Arkansas. And so knowing that that's just the primary routes, not even the secondary, it's going to take time. And so, our crews are focused on that. And the sun is doing its job on the residential roads, and for a coastal community, and the resources that we have for these types of events, I think we do really well. But please download the Waze app. We use it year round, not only for flooding situations, but winter storms as well. And we're trying to get the technology to where you can track, the plows and where they are in the neighborhoods. But yeah, it's all about being informed and then making the right decisions from there.
So you heard it here, let's double check that you have the Waze app, that you're ready to go, you're prepared, you can get those alerts. I don't know if people utilize it anyway. It's a good thing for hazards, for traffic, but they're saying, hey, they put the information out there on the Waze app to get it to you as quick as possible. I know that people are probably praying for that white Christmas, praying for snow, but even in case of icy roads or icy sidewalks, just be mindful of keeping track of that and helping out your neighbors. So some other tips for him. He says, keep updated. Don't put yourself in harm's way or get in a situation where you might need that extra emergency assistance, and take it from people that are already being helped or already on the roads, whether they need to go to work or so forth. Another thing, a big thing he highlights, is look out for your neighbors, whether they're a neighbor that maybe needs some extra assistance, is living at home by themselves during this time. Just being mindful. If the power goes out, maybe just being careful about what's happening. And that can happen too, as he mentioned, nor'easters. We get those too during the winter months here, and that is something where we're going to see a lot of rainfall. Another thing with the rainfall is obviously it washes away some of that salt and some things that are put on those roads and those sidewalks. So just be extra careful if we're in that situation. Now, as temperatures drop, the other thing that we want to be mindful is our neighbors that are not housed. So making sure that they find places to go in those colder temperatures. So if you do, he wants to say, call the Norfolk Cares call center. If you see someone that might need assistance, it's 757-664-6510. I will also put that on the article on wavy.com as well, and put it at the end of the Facebook chat just in case you need some extra tips. They also do, so check certain areas to make sure that they are bringing those people that may need assistance to the right places. They partner with churches, with organizations, and all. Now, the last thing he wants you to be careful about is fumes, generators, and space heaters. I know it's cold. If the power goes out and you're lucky to have a generator, that's great. Put it on, but be safe. Be mindful of those instructions. Putting it outside. Don't put it in your garage. Don't put it in your home. Be careful about space heaters as well, especially, I know that some of them are electric, but some of them I do think run through, kerosene or whatever it might be to fuel that. So just be mindful. We want to keep track of sort of, what we're utilizing, unplugging it, and so forth. On that, the Virginia Poison Center Director, Dr. Reddy Rose, has some tips for us to stay safe this winter. One thing, and I don't know if you guys are aware, but just making sure you're mindful of what you're putting, liquids in. And we're going to hear that from him as well. So we just want to be careful this season about what we're using, yes, to stay warm, but, just making sure that we're keeping track of devices we have plugged in, especially during this time where it's busy, where it's cold, things are happening. So let's hear a little bit about from the Virginia Poison Center. And here you have some generators that are playing. We're going to cut to some sound from Dr. Reddy Rose, and he is going to give us some tips on what to do with those generators, and just be mindful.
The safe use of generators, if you lose power, that the generator has to be outside because the exhaust is going to contain carbon monoxide. And unfortunately, we get a couple of bad cases every winter. The fuel for those or space heaters and generators or gasoline or kerosene, and those need to be kept in secure containers and out of sight and out of reach of children. For God's sakes, don't put kerosene for your space heater in an empty Coca-Cola bottle or a soda bottle. It happens. If you're putting antifreeze in your car, don't leave that antifreeze out. Often it's lime green and looks sweet to a child, and it can be very poisonous. So sort of the wintertime hazards that we get calls about, we like to make sure that that people know about those things.
And those are some good tips to keep in mind. Thank you, Dr. Rose, about what to do for those space heaters, for that, fuel that you're using. He also, offers some fire tips there. You want to be safe with having those space heaters and things plugged in too close to furniture or other types of devices or cloth. Some other tips, being careful. I know that we're lighting candles during the holiday season. I know that we're, plugging in Christmas tree lights. We're plugging in maybe displays. Be careful, turn them off when they're not in use, and overnight. You don't want to leave, those things overnight when nobody can watch and pay attention to them. Making sure and watching out for that Christmas tree too. We've seen videos from the fire department of what can happen when that Christmas tree does catch on fire. And we just want you to be careful if you do have a tree in your home, and knowing what to do with that, and being safe. The other way we want to keep you healthy is, from looking at, where the flu is. So I'm going to pull that map up, and if you were with me during the Thanksgiving holiday live stream, the numbers, it's a little scary. I will say that it looks a little bit more colorful, but we're going to pull up the map there and just show you a little bit about what we're seeing on that CDC map. So here you have it. It used to be green back in November. It looked more in that low and minimal level. Now we're seeing it, in that sort of more colorful area, especially down south. And even in Virginia, you can see that it's reached that orange sort of high range. Now, this is the data from, you see it there, week 49 ending December 9th. So this will update on Friday. This will update again next week. And you can sort of see what's happening after the holidays and see where that goes. Now, if you are traveling to some of these states, and if you're traveling even to maybe the more north states where things could still happen, right? You're having people travel from the south north, you're having people travel across the country. So just be careful about those practices and sort of where you're going. We have some advice from CHKD, who's going to talk to us sort of about what they're seeing locally and the local impact. It's Dr. John Harrington. He's the VP of Quality and Patient Safety at CHKD. He spoke with me on what's happening right now, just to let us know, what's happening in your neighborhood. Are you seeing something that maybe is nerve-wracking, maybe hurting your family, maybe just to be aware of at those holiday gatherings? So we're just going to hear a little bit from him about what to do this holiday season.
So we're seeing the three viruses that are kind of circulating right now: the RSV, the flu, and COVID. And I would tell you that the COVID is increasing along with the flu. RSV is still sort of stable, and it's really hard to tell the difference between the three viruses sometimes in terms of your initial symptoms and stuff. However, the flu probably tends to make you feel the sickest in terms of fever, headache, and just, achiness and stuff. The current COVID variant, which is the JN1, is actually more insidious. It's sort of, you don't feel that sick. You get a bit of a sore throat and a runny nose and kind of a headache and tiredness, but not the same degree of the flu. So that's why people get confused with those. And then the idea is that the flu, generally you're sick and you get a high fever and then it goes down, and then you're usually not contagious for very long. So you don't necessarily infect a lot of other people because you get sick pretty quickly and you get better pretty quickly in most cases. But the COVID, unfortunately, you don't feel that sick. You're contagious for 2 days before you even feel sick. And then you're contagious for another 5 or 6 days after you were sick or after your fever went away. And so you're much more likely to transmit COVID. And that's why we may see a much bigger jump in it now that the virus, that variant, is now circulating in our area and stuff. So, right now, those are kind of our big three. The RSV tends to make little babies very sick. And if you do have a newborn baby and can get the Beyfortus vaccine that's available at most places now, you can protect infants under 5 kilograms, which is basically about 10 or 12 pounds. That means most kids would need to get it either soon after birth or at least before their first 2 months of age and stuff. So that's why we're trying to get those kids in as quickly as possible to get them that vaccine, since it does prevent, significant illness and keeps them out of the ICU and getting intubated.
Now, take that with caution, I guess, for if you're around here locally or traveling, and just be mindful about what is happening. And he does go on to say, wear a mask even if you are having a cough or sniffles. Wear a mask. That is transmission, good transmission practices. So he says, even if you're in a car with people, you're driving an hour, the windows aren't down, be careful. Wear a mask, protect your family if you're able. He says, even if you feel more comfortable, find a Christmas mask, put that on top. Make it fun if you can, but just protect those people when you're going out to an event like a show or at a Christmas party. You still want to be a part of the fun, but just to keep it safe. Other tips include, get your immunizations. He says it's not too late. Go get it. Go get the flu vaccination if you can. Go get your COVID vaccination, RSV if it's able. Now, the thing about the RSV, and we've seen this from people, is that there is a shortage and there are certain dosing shortages. So, we want to be careful about, getting those to the right patients, and also be mindful about making sure if your child and your infant is in that range, that you are going to get them that vaccine. The other thing he talks about is being mindful so that during this holiday season, we don't see a huge spike again, whether on that flu map or how many cases of COVID we have or the RSV cases. So just be careful and be mindful around those vulnerable groups. That's, elderly people, maybe your grandparents, your family, your friends, going out to certain events, also people with pre-existing conditions, and younger children that maybe are more vulnerable to RSV. So new babies, be careful about who you're sort of visiting this season as things pass around, especially, as he said, with COVID. You might not know you have it. The other thing he says to be mindful of is if you do get that rapid home test, or you take that home test, a test for COVID, a positive is a sign it's positive. But if it's negative, it could be that there's not enough antigens yet. There could be that you do need to sort of wait for it to progress. So just be mindful of that he says that doesn't exonerate you, that negative COVID test at home. So be aware, be mindful. And I know that as we travel, and we're going to get to that right now, travel on flights and across the country, planes do have that good air circulation, but you do want to be mindful when you're sitting in terminals, if they're busy, in line for TSA and things like that. You do want to be mindful about sort of who you're next to, what you're seeing, and all of that. Now, we're going to talk now about some of that air travel. I know most people are going to sort of travel by car, but a ton of people are still traveling by air. The AAA is projecting 7.5 million Americans will travel this season by air. Now, if you're one of those, take that into account. Maybe you need to get to the airport a little bit earlier. We're going to hear from some people that Camaria Bray spoke with about how early they started packing even, and how early they got to the airport, and how early you should get to the airport to make sure you're safe. Now, there also is a note about packing. Now, the TSA always puts out some fun images about what you can pack. They did for Thanksgiving, but just some tips. If it's a dry ingredient of some sort that you're bringing, a dry Christmas present, if it's some chocolate, if it's maybe, some, what else are people bringing? Let's think about those gifts. Let's not bring maybe those beverages with us on a plane. Send it there, maybe get it there, maybe ask a relative in the city that you're going to pick it up. You don't want to be in a situation where you get stopped at a busy airport and have to open up your suitcase and sort of go through those things at TSA. So be mindful of what you're bringing. Double check those lists before you get to the airport about what you can actually take on the flight, and be careful about that. So right now we're going to hear from Camaria Bray, who spoke with some people that are actually traveling during this season, and see what they're saying, what they're feeling, what they're where they're going. So just here is a look from Camaria.
We've met travelers going from Houston all the way to Australia. And if you're one of the millions of people across the U.S. traveling for this holiday season, we have some tips to make your travels go easier. It's the calm before the storm.
We're going to Portugal for Christmas and study abroad after, so we'll be there until May.
Hannah Hill and her boyfriend had about a half a dozen bags with them.
It was so bad trying to get everything down in that suitcase, sitting on it. We had 3 people sit on my suitcase to get it shut.
She said she packed 3 days ago. But it's a different story for Erica Wilson.
We've been packed for about 4 weeks.
She's headed down south.
We're going to Orlando to visit family. Brand new cousin. She's about 4 months old. Can't wait to get our hands on her.
Travel tips from TSA is to start packing with an empty bag to avoid having weapons and prohibited items. Remember, liquids 3.4 ounces or less are allowed in your carry-on bags. Get to the airport 2 hours before your flight leaves. And make sure gifts are unwrapped in case it needs to be inspected.
Just loving the holidays, ready to get down there and enjoy and relax, and it's just so exciting. But be ready for the lines, be ready for the wait, and have patience. Above all, have patience and just enjoy yourselves.
And Hill can't wait to taste Portuguese coffee.
Uma bica, por favor. That's an espresso, please.
At Norfolk International Airport, I'm Camaria Bray, 10 on your side.
And she spoke with them. You hear them there. They're getting ready. Some people have packed earlier. Now, I think candles are always a question of if you can bring them on the plane or not. They are allowed. You can check them. You can bring them on. Just be mindful of what you can bring and what you can't bring. Now, we know what impacts whether what impacts travel, is weather. And that is probably what you've been waiting for. That's what you're waiting to hear sort of in your travel plans to make those decisions about when to leave. What can you expect when you get there across the country? So Ricky Matthews does have a forecast for us. He's going to give us sort of that inside scoop for people traveling, to know what to do, how to handle, the season where you're going across the country, avoid those delays, hopefully, make sure that you are, prepared if you do run into certain weather patterns across the country. So we're going to go over to him and see, what he can sort of tell us about what to expect.
If you are traveling heading into the weekend, you can expect some nice weather locally for both Thursday afternoon and Friday. No major impacts expected across the area as high pressure will continue to be in control. Temperatures primarily will be in the 40s and 50s across much of Virginia and North Carolina. A little cooler to the north towards D.C. and a little warmer to the south if you're heading towards Wilmington or down to the Charleston area. Expect a good amount of sunshine, especially early in the day on Friday. So traveling westward as you go later into the day, you need those sunglasses as sun continues to shine. Now, traveling by air may become a little tricky towards Chicago and St. Louis heading into Friday as a weather system starts to work its way across the central United States. In the eastern part of the United States, we're still expecting nice weather. So D.C. to New York City, Boston, a couple of our major hubs here on the East Coast, including Charlotte, no problems expected. But as you make your way towards Chicago and St. Louis, there could be a few travel delays there. Same thing for Detroit heading into Saturday afternoon, and Dallas, a big hub for American Airlines as they travel westward across the United States. Now, heading into Sunday, once again, a bigger storm system starts to form. So Minneapolis, Denver, and Dallas expecting to see some travel delays if you're going to be traveling on Christmas Eve, heading into Christmas Day. That's likely going to be when we see the biggest impacts in terms of weather. Now, of course, weather is one factor, but volume can also cause some delays with the airlines. And since many airlines also use a hub system now, even though the weather may be very nice here in Norfolk or at an airport you're going to, the weather nationwide at those hubs can impact downstream what the airlines and airplanes are able to do. So keep that in mind next time you have a flight delay. It may not be the weather at your airport, but the weather at a major hub across the nation. There is a unit of NOAA that actually watches the weather across the entire United States and really across the globe to make sure airlines can fly safely. That organization is called the Aviation Weather Center, and they issue alerts for turbulence. They issue alerts for any type of adverse weather like icing to make sure the traveling public can stay safe as they're traveling for the holiday season. If you are traveling, we wish you a safe travel. And of course, you can take our Wavy Weather app with you. Even though you're out of town, it'll update to your current location and give you the forecast for that city.
Well, you heard it from Ricky, be mindful, check the app, keep updated with what the weather is like where you are across the country. And I just want to say, some other tips, look at the app, whether you've gotten your flight information or not, seeing if there are those delays, seeing if there's gate changes, make sure you're aware going to the airport or going on your drive about what you're heading into. Well, from all of us at Wavy, we want to say happy holidays. Hope this was informative to keep you safe and healthy on your travels throughout this 10-day holiday travel period. Just be mindful, check back with Wavy online if you're traveling on the app to see, what to expect and just stay up to date on the latest of what you're coming home to as well. So with that, happy holidays. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today at the Wavy Digital Desk. We'll see you next time.